Word. Okay. All right, great. So we're going to start today. We're talking about the magic of self-awareness. Okay. And we're going to start with a couple with introductions. So if everybody will just introduce themselves, just your name, and then we can move on, Erin, and kind of what brought you here. And then, so we'll start with Erin.
Hey, I'm Erin. I'm actually with the Colorado Respite Coalition, so that is what brought me here. But also, I just enjoy these programs with Lori. And then when I can, whenever I have information that I think is useful to the group, I will definitely share it out from us. And just really quick, so we have a statewide webinar coming up on February 1st. And I can tell you more about it, later or some other time, if you are wondering who should attend and what kind of information it is. But anyway, it's essentially open to everyone. So that, and yeah, there's always information from the coalition to share. So I'll share it when I can. So
yeah, make sure to remind me at the end, because that's the best time, I think, then everybody will remember. Okay, Leslie.
I'm Leslie. I live in the Portland, Oregon area, and I met Lori on LinkedIn, which is how I got to be here. I have a daughter who's 28 who has been ill for 20 years with a chronic illness. So I have been in the position of giving care all of these years, and I'm just interested in connecting with others.
Thank you. Joan.
I'm Joan, and I live in Denver with the snow right now. And it's beautiful, actually, but I'm inside, so that helps. I met Lori many years ago as I was taking care of my mom. She was living with me, but my mom has since passed away from COVID. So, but I'm still attending the group, and I enjoy connecting with others. And if I can share anything that has helped me, I want to do that. But I've known Lori for a long time. She's helped me immensely.
Thank you. Yeah, we met through Seniors Resource Center classes there. So that I appreciate your always being loyal and supportive. Okay, Caroline.
So I'm Caroline Corey. And I now live in Houston, Texas, but I met Lori when I was living in Denver, Colorado. And I owned an art gallery there, and we became friends. And I also really appreciate what she does professionally. I am dealing with aging parents, my parents who are British but live in San Antonio. My dad is 88, my mom is 85, and we are dealing with my mom having early onset dementia, and there's been some real struggles in trying to help them adjust to that process. So I really enjoy the sessions, but also it's very helpful for me to get support and understanding of how not only to help them with their issues, but also coping with my own feelings around that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Andy. Sandy. Hey.
Oops. Oh.
You're good. Just introduce yourself.
Hi, I lost you. I am so illiterate when these iPhones are beyond me, and I try so hard to learn and I don't get anywhere. So I've lost the video, but my name is Sandy. I'm from Denver, Colorado, and what I'm seeking, and I've received too in abundance, is healing and understanding. I took care of my mom who had Alzheimer's, my dad who died of a stroke, and my Aunt Opal. And luckily they timed it all just right. I think it's from the man upstairs because they timed it just right. I'd lose one and accept another. So that worked out real good. I only have a brother left in the family who lives in Texas. So he was little or no help regarding that. So it was difficult because it was kind of a one-man show. I did hire people, which always never seemed to be enough. But I'm looking because like the nurses told me, Sandy, don't worry, you're going to be dead before the rest of them. And I didn't get much healing, or I didn't worry about myself at all. I just ran into it and did the best I could. I will never regret it. But now I'm seeking the healing that I kind of did not do. Some of the things I did not do correctly for myself.
Great, thank you. And Hazel.
Hi, everyone. I have 3 boys with behavioral issues that I'm having to raise and care for. So yes, I have just been, doing, and not really paying attention to the emotions in my body. So I think before I pass out again, I should possibly be a bit more in touch with my emotions and breathe a bit.
Well, let me tell you, today's class is written perfectly for you, Hazel. Awesome. Okay, so we're just going to jump right in to sort of, first of all, we're going to talk about what is self-awareness. So self-awareness is the ability to understand the things that make you who you are as an individual, including personality, actions, values, beliefs, emotions, and thoughts. Essentially, it's a psychological state in which the self becomes the focus of attention. Now, for each and every one of you, read that again, because that's pretty not what we do, right? As caregivers, we don't let ourselves become the focus of attention. And that's one of the issues or challenges that we have while we're caregiving and while we're healing after the caregiving journey. And I want to attribute that, make sure to attribute that to betterup.com. That's where I got a lot of the information for this presentation. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that to everybody. Self-awareness, I'm going to shrink that because I can't see them. Self-awareness, how to use the magic of self-awareness to make your caregiving experience a better one. Having self-awareness can help you interpret your actions, feelings, and thoughts objectively. So in a caregiving scenario, being self-aware can help you be honest and objective about, and this is just 5 things, but I'm probably going to, so think about this and see if you can jump in and add anything else. It can help you be honest and objective about how you're feeling about being a caregiver, about your current psychological and emotional health, about your resistance to asking for and or accepting help, about the need to control every aspect of your environment. I think that's a very common thing that I see with caregivers. And then, yeah, can anyone else jump in and think of how being more self-aware can help you be more honest and objective? Where would those things fit?
Well, Lori, my dad is the primary caregiver of my mom right now, even though he's 88. And so it's, we're kind of on the outside looking in, trying to help. And these are interesting questions because they recently went to a doctor's appointment, and then my dad sent out an email to my brother and myself, my daughter, who's helping advocate for them medically. And he said, we need to let you know your mom may have early dementia. And I'm only laughing because we all just sort of went, oh, okay, we've been working towards this. And so I would say denial. Can I add denial in there as for the person, because I'm not the direct caregiver, so I don't want to position myself that way. We're trying to assist him. And I would say the biggest problem is resistance for asking or accepting help, and the denial that the situation is as serious or real as it is. Absolutely. That would be mine. Denial may be a part of it.
Right.
Which is a self-protection mechanism.
So Caroline, I would also, as you're speaking, I might offer an objective thought here around denial with regards to you, perhaps, and your brother, and even your husband, in that we have a tendency as long distance caregivers to diminish our role somewhat and say, oh, but I'm not the primary caregiver.
Right.
Right. But you still have the worry. You still have, physical and emotional challenges that come from that circumstance, especially in your particular circumstance, because I know that your dad has been in denial for a while, and it's worn on you quite considerably. Right. So where I say denial comes into play for you is that I'm not picking on you, but we have a tendency to do this, in that we diminish our worry and our concern and how that whole long distance caregiving role affects us. Whereas if you were more hands-on, you'd probably have less stress and anxiety in regards to some things, not all.
Yeah, so fear comes into that part. Is he going to fall over again? Are they going to be attacked by a robber? It just because you're not in control. So
yeah. So there's a lot of that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, so there are two kinds of self-awareness. There's public self-awareness, which is being aware of how we appear to others. Because of this consciousness, we are more likely to adhere to the social norms and behave in ways that are socially acceptable. Okay, makes perfect sense, seems good. Why would that be problematic, though, in a caregiving situation? Because the danger here is that we worry too much about what others think and put that outside perception above our own needs. Right? We put on this brave face. We tend to be like, when people say to you that you're, wow, you're doing such a great job. Wow, you're so strong. Wow, we feed on that. And we tell ourselves that I have to believe this. I have to be so strong. I have to do it all myself. Right? So that public awareness is very important to combine with your own private self-awareness. Okay. And a private self-awareness is being able to notice and reflect on one's internal state. So as an example, when you're making breakfast and maybe you're carry comments negatively on your cooking abilities, right? That's just a really basic, simple example, but immediately you feel your body tense and you start to be, like you're defensive and, I'm doing my best. How can, that kind of stuff. You recognize, but when you have a private self-awareness, then you're able to stop and recognize, oh, I'm tensing up. Oh, I'm reacting to this comment that's being made. And you're able to take a step back. So you recognize your physical reaction and you attribute it to how it made you feel. That's being self-aware. And you're able to take a breath and not immediately respond or react to that. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to list 5 examples of how you may have put outside perception above your own needs, and then go on to 5 examples of times when you reacted strictly from your gut or your emotion. And we're just going to do this for about 3 minutes, or until I see that everybody's kind of done. About 40 seconds. And by the way, I will be emailing this PowerPoint out to everyone. So if you miss something in your note taking. Okay, so if you can start getting to a place where you're done. Anybody care to share?
Well, I have one thing that sticks out to me is that my mom had Alzheimer's, but she, in those years I was taking care of her, she wanted to wear the same thing, same navy blue, everything navy blue all the time. And I finally, in the groups that you go to, you realize that this is normal for dementia. But I was always worried about what people would think, that they would think that I was not changing her clothes and not washing her clothes, because she had many blue tops and many blue sweaters and many blue pants of the same outfit. And when I realized that that was okay, that was such a relief for me to realize that I had to just take it back, and that a step back, that was fine. That, I knew I was keeping her clean, but, I was worried about what other people were thinking. Like, do I ever change her clothes? And it was and it seems so minor, but it was a real relief for me to know that that's okay, and just buy her all the same color, Yeah. I was used to mom being very colorful and wearing all different things, but in her final years, all she wanted to wear was this navy blue stuff. So, but that was,
yeah, that's a great public awareness.
yeah, you just constantly worry about what the doctors are thinking, what your friends are thinking, what your family's thinking. It's
Yes.
like, oh, so
Yeah.
it's it is a relief if you can take a step back and realize, a lot of this stuff is normal, and you're
doing a great job, right? I mean,
doing a good job. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. Anyone else have an example of either personal or public self-awareness where you didn't have it, or
One, Lori, I have one. It's the reacting from my gut. My father-in-law and I have a actually like very good relationship, but I often, and my husband and I joke about it now, that I feel like he like baits me with certain topics. He doesn't. He absolutely, he's just speaking, but I sometimes will catch a certain thing that he says, and I will just, depending on the context, take it a certain way, and I will react from my gut. And I'm so close to him and comfortable with him that sometimes I'll say and react. I'd just be a little more candid than sometimes I have to be like, that's my father. Like, that's not just like my chum. Like, even though, we are friends and we're close, but, I still, and then, on the flip side of that, it's kind of the public perception thing too, that I worry a lot about my relationship with both of my in-laws and my own parents. And, like if does our relationship look and sound, and is it everything it's supposed to be, that kind of thing. So
sure.
yeah,
Sure.
a lot
And
of
if one of those gut reactions happens in public, right? So then it's
which it has before. Yeah, we were at dinner one time, which it didn't end poorly, but it could have. It makes me think a lot of how it could have, and that's how people end up, with like bad
at odds.
relationships. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
I think for me, so my parents used to live here in Houston and were very active socially, and also with the Episcopal Church. And my dad was on the vestry, and my mother was head of Altar Guild, and they were just very outgoing, very social people. And they moved to San Antonio about 6-7 years ago. So a lot of people here know them, and my husband and I do attend the Episcopal Church there. And just people being so nice will say, how are your parents, and all of this. And there's a few of the close friends that I like, it's not good. People that I can just be very open with. And then for the rest of them, I say, they're getting older, and I just smooth it all over and don't say my mother has no idea who you are anymore. Like, she came up to visit a couple of, well, 2 years ago, and she was like, I don't remember any of these people. And she had gone through chemotherapy, and so they kept putting it down to the fact that she had chemo brain. But what we realize now is that what was being passed off as chemo brain was really early onset dementia. And there's just been a study done in the UK. My aunt, who lives in England, is working with me to help with my parents. She had come to visit, and they are the social medicine system in the UK are going to elderly people's homes, and they're assessing them for dementia, because one of the things that they found out, and this is absolutely true in our family situation, was during the lockdown, and particularly in England, it was even more draconian than here. We had much more freedom, but because my parents were elderly, we didn't see them a lot in person. And my mother's disease process, as it was escalating, we weren't seeing it because we weren't with her.
Right. So I want to get back on topic.
Sorry.
So
I'm covering for them.
Right. Okay. So do you feel that that's but you're doing it, so that's a public awareness, is that right?
Yes, sorry, that's a public, in that sense, it's a public awareness, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Does anybody have another personal awareness or times when you reacted strictly from your gut or emotion without an awareness of where that was coming from? I can give an example because, and I know many of you have probably heard this before, but it's a quick story about, you know, that my mom used to, whenever I would leave the house, my mom would point to the clock and kind of, she couldn't use language, so she would do me, like asking when I was going to be home. And at one point in time, I just reacted from my gut and was just like, you know, I don't get to have dinner with my friends very often, and so is here to take care of you, and I'm gonna go, and you know, and I'll be home when I get home, and whatever. That was such a gut reaction, and I was not, the awareness came in later when I did a journal write about it, and I understood that I was reacting as that 16-year-old being curfewed. So all my friends got to come in at midnight and I had to be home by 10, you know, and all of that, right, was coming back up. But I didn't have that awareness. And once I developed that awareness, I was then able to handle the situation so much differently. And without that gut reaction and hurt her feelings and her, then I, you know, was hurt and whatever. So that's an example of reacting from your gut, and then how it can make a difference when you have some personal awareness. Let's see. Here are some examples of common benefits of self-awareness. Okay. Self-awareness gives us the power to influence outcomes. It helps us to become better decision makers, gives us more self-confidence to communicate with clarity and intention. It allows us to understand things from multiple perspectives. It frees us from our assumptions and biases. It helps us build better relationships because we can be more honest, right? And come at it from understanding that person's perspective and our perspective and so on. It helps us, it gives us a greater ability to regulate our emotions. It decreases stress and actually makes us happier. Those are just a few of the benefits of having self-awareness. So the first, we're going to write for 5 minutes. And I want you to start we're going to start with public awareness. Okay, so your prompt is, what others think of me. Okay, we're going to write for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then I'll stop you, and then we're going to do the reflection, right? Okay. A little under a minute left, but if you finished, go ahead and read what you wrote and do your reflection right. Starting with reading this, maybe I feel, or I am surprised by, I recognize. I'm just going to add about a minute 30. And then we'll move on to the next.
I'll be right back. I need to let a doggy outside.
Sure. About 20 seconds. If you can get a place to finish your sentence. Whoops. Okay. So now we're going to move on to private self-awareness. Here's your prompt. Noticing and reflecting on my internal state is blank because blank. Okay. Noticing and reflecting on my internal state . about a minute left. If you've already finished, go ahead and read what you wrote and move on to your reflection, right? Let's go about another 30 seconds. If that works for everybody. Okay. So, anybody want to offer what that was like? If you had any interesting awareness? Come on, you can be brave.
I'll go. I just don't want to. I didn't want to talk too much. On the first one. Realistically, I don't have that much public awareness issues to deal with. It's my parents who do.
Ah,
So, like when we were making those before, I mean, the public awareness thing for me was like really minor. I have a zillion private awareness things. I was like, that could go on forever, that list. But what I realized was with my parents is like they have always been that way. I always think, I don't know if anybody, I know there's one or two people watch occasionally like British comedy or mystery shows. Somebody on here does, I remember. And there's a show called Keeping Up Appearances with a woman whose her real name's Hazel Bucket, but she calls herself Hazel Bouquet. And we always laugh because we say it's just like my mother. But my parents are very self-aware of their their home, and they're just there. They've always been like that. It's always driven me crazy. And part of the problem I have with it is that they're letting that get in the way of getting my mother appropriate treatment.
yeah.
And that really makes me mad. So I come from a lot of anger at my parents. That goes way back when you said about the 16-year-old. It was like, I hated that stuff when I was 16.
Yeah. And helplessness.
Yeah.
Because you know that ultimately you are going to be handed over this bag of medical, garbage that you're going to have to clean up and deal with. And you try, from what you've stated in the classes in the past, is that you're trying to get them to do something about it, so that, number one, so your mom doesn't continue down the dementia rabbit hole, but also you see where that's affecting your dad and it's going to make him ill. And yeah, so that public awareness issue of theirs is second-handedly affecting you negatively.
Right. And so my daughter, who lives in San Antonio, is they are actually going to now see a neurologist in April. I mean, here we are like 2 years on more from when the original neurologist appointment was, that got canceled, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and my daughter said to me, you always sound like you're coming from a place of anger, Mom. And she's very doctor. She's a neuroscientist and she's very pragmatic. And I'm like, I am coming from a place of anger. She goes, well, sometimes you need to meet people where they're at. And I'm like, don't you lecture me. I mean, no, now my daughter's lecturing me and I'm already defensive about my parents. And now I've got my daughter coming at me. And boy, I just like trigger off like crazy. So yeah.
Right.
There you go.
Right. So there's some personal awareness and some personal work that can be
Yeah.
done because, you know, I completely understand the response for sure. But if it doesn't get you results, then it just perpetuates the cycle. And so working a little bit more on that personal awareness and learning to understand how that is affecting you emotionally.
Well,
Take
and the
a-
other aspect of it, which I think everybody would agree to, is that I have, like we all do, the caregiver part is not an isolated thing. We have lots of other stuff going on in our lives. We may have work, stepchildren, other children, grandchildren, spouses. There's all those other dynamics. And when you get to Christmas time or a period of time where that intensifies, it just is more.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, because the caregiving thing doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Yes, you're exactly right. That's such a good point, for sure. Yeah. Anyone else want to offer up anything that they found in either of their rights or both?
I do, Lori.
Great.
I was surprised as I wrote both of these to realize what an impact and an influence having regular counseling sessions with a counselor has done for me. My daughter has been ill for so many years, and we just didn't have the financial resources for me to go get therapy because we were pouring money into her medical expenses. And it wasn't until this past fall when I was on Medicare that I was able to find, I only have to pay $20 for copay. I can do that. And, you know, I do credit journaling regularly with helping me sort my way through the jungle of emotions that I've been through all these years. But having a regular counseling session over Zoom once a week since September, I just as I was writing all these things, I thought, I have so much more of a greater awareness now of myself and how I respond to others' opinions of me. And also to, you know, how, and my own private things, you know, like in the home. Um, and I don't know how else to say it except I have a greater respect for me as a person. One book I read talked about cherishing ourselves. And I thought, well, that's not what I was taught, you know, in my religion school, right? You have to love others more than yourself. But, you know, so I think by working with this counselor, I've begun to respect myself more, think more about myself, and cherish my time, my sanity, my own growth, in ways that I might not have discovered without the counseling.
That's so beautiful. And you know what I think we don't understand is that lack of self-care, that lack of self-respect, that
Mhm.
lack of you know, like putting ourselves first, prioritizing our needs, our emotions,
Yes.
our weaknesses even, that affects the relationships with everyone around us.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
and it's so sad to me that we're not taught at an earlier age how to even identify our own feelings, how we
Yes.
and why we're feeling the way we're feeling.
Mhm.
I actually watched an interview, a documentary on, I think it was Netflix, where Dylan Klebold, one of the boys from
Mm.
Columbine, mother is now an activist about teaching, trying to get into the schools and the different healthcare systems on the importance of this education at an early age, and with parents as well, like helping parents learn the questions to ask of our children
Mhm.
to properly identify their emotional state, not just how you doing, are you okay,
Yeah.
what's, how was school, I mean, we're not taught how to have that deeper conversation,
Yeah.
even with as caregivers, right? People ask caregivers, how you doing, and what do we typically respond? We respond with what I call the 4-letter F word: fine, fine. It's all
Yeah.
fine. We're not, but we don't want to burden others. We think, what do they care, or what can they do about it, right?
Mhm.
But if you have that, even one or two connections with someone that you can say, I'm having a really bad day, and I need to talk to someone who's not going to give me their opinion or try to solve my problem. I just need to vent. Can you listen to me in that way? Because so many people are so uncomfortable with that honest expression of sadness or frustration or anxiety, that they try to solve the problem for you, and that's not what
Yeah.
we're looking for, right?
I think that's what
Yeah.
we're afraid of too. Like you said, when somebody asks you, how are you doing? Are afraid of letting it loose because they're going to give you their opinion and they're going to, well, you should maybe this, you should maybe that. It's like, I don't want to hear that
Right,
because I'm probably
Yeah.
doing all that anyway.
right.
But,
In essence,
yeah.
you take that on as, so now they're telling you it's your fault how you feel, right? It's your fault that, you know, whatever the circumstance, they lay there without saying it's your fault. We feel the blame, and that's not helpful. I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm this or that. I mean, it's like, whether it's your children, like Hazel, or whether it's your long distance parents like you, Caroline, when you open up to people, they always have these suggestions or opinion, or, have you tried this, or did you do that, or what did you do when you were, in your case, Hazel, having 3 children on the spectrum is pretty unusual. I think people are like, whoa, right? And so they ask questions or say things not intentionally, but to some degree laying blame, like almost like, what did you do that this is your circumstance? Or even like in a way of, how do you do that? Like people would say things to me about my mom, like, I don't know, that like all of a sudden my mom was an alien or something. It's like, well, she's still my mom. I mean, I know she can't use language, but I understand her, and I love her as much as I loved her before this, So yeah, it's very challenging to find a space to open up to people. And yes, Leslie, that's why counseling is so valuable and so important. Journaling is wonderful, but it can only help to a certain degree, because that's why I use the technique that I use, that I'm certified in, because it takes the journaling one step deeper and tries to get you to the aha moment with your reflection, right? Instead of, I mean, journaling is a beautiful way to get those emotions onto the page, for sure. But if you don't take that one step further and understand, why did you react that way to begin with? Why is that, we're all over, well, maybe not Erin, but most of us, all of us, the majority of us are over 40, right? And and it's sad to have gotten this far in our life and not be able to recognize, what are those triggers, what are those things that happen in an everyday situation that trigger you to have a a reaction to something that is usually, the reaction usually comes from a deeper level than just what just happened, right? It's usually a trigger from something else. So when you have a personal self-awareness, it's easier to identify that trigger. And once you know the trigger, then you can create a plan to react differently the next time. That makes sense to everybody? Great. So again, self-awareness does not happen magically. You would think it would, right? But it doesn't. So there are ways to become more self-aware. So envision yourself. We're going to go deeper into each one of these, but the list says to envision yourself, to ask what questions, strengthen your brain, ask others their perception of you, practice mindfulness, and keep a journal. So here's a deeper dive, right? Envision yourself. Think of scenarios in your daily caregiving or life in general that don't go well, and then envision how it could have gone better. One small change of being more self-aware in that moment. So a wonderful journal technique for envisioning yourself is the perspectives right. In a perspectives right, you write as if. You write maybe 3 months in the future, 6 months in the future, a year in the future, whatever, that the next time this happened, you already reacted with self-awareness. So then you understand how to do that differently. How does that feel, right? Asking what questions? Asking yourself questions in the frame of what could I have done differently, rather than why did I react that way? Allows you to see things as fixable for the next time, rather than being your own self-critic. Okay. Again, another journal technique for that is a captured moment. So in a captured moment, you write about the situation that happened, and you write it out from all of your senses, how you felt when it happened, what you saw when it happened, you know, etc. And you get very clear about the situation. Strengthening your brain. Be in the moment and listen to your body before you react. Understand and feel how your body is reacting to the situation, and take a moment to process before reacting from emotion. Okay. A great journal technique for that is a 5-minute sprint. It may seem sort of unrealistic, but just stop, write about it. If you're not in a situation where you can write about the circumstance, just think about it. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling that way? Why was my original reaction to scream or you know, to cry, or my shoulders just went up to my ears? Why was that? You know, feel what your reaction is within your body. That's a great way to strengthen your brain. Be aware. Ask others their perception of you. Now, this can be a hard one in a caregiving situation, just like we just talked about, since everyone has an opinion, an idea, or a solution to your caregiving challenge, right? So it's never that simple. So if you have a trusted friend, like I talked about, someone that you're comfortable with, that you can tell them, you know, look, I'm not looking for critique. I want to get your perception of how I'm handling this or whatever. Go ahead and do that. But another great place is your journal. It's a really good space to identify, to ask yourself even your own perception of yourself and how you're doing in your job. And the dialogue right is a really great way to do that. You do a dialogue right just as if you're having a conversation with yourself. You could even have a conversation with your personal awareness and just, why say, me, I'm asking my personal awareness why I react to this situation this way. And then you go personal awareness and you write the answer. And then you say you, and you, and you have a complete dialogue. The main thing to remember about a dialogue right is it takes about 25 to 30 minutes. The first 7 minutes of a dialogue right is definitely very contrived and doesn't feel comfortable, but just keep going. At 7 minutes, your brain makes a shift and it becomes more easy, a better flow. And you'll even notice your handwriting changes. It just is a definite dynamic change. Practicing mindfulness. Meditation is only one form of mindfulness. In a stressful situation, it can be helpful to just stop, breathe, notice your environment by mentally naming your surroundings. There's a great technique in this deck of cards that I have that I'm going to talk about later. And it talks about to get mindful, to get in the moment, list 5 things that you see, list 4 things that you smell, list 3 things, right? So it kind of takes you down and really focus you into the moment, being mindful of where you are. Let's see, another thing that I tell, especially caregivers, but I think this is great for everybody, make a safe space in your home with things that bring you peace, whether it's, the little table where you sit and read in the morning, or if you are an active caregiver, sometimes it has to be something like the master bathroom or, a walk-in closet or something, but surround yourself with things from all of your senses. So maybe you put in a candle for maybe your safe space, something that brings you calm and peace is the ocean. So you have a candle that smells like the ocean. You have a picture of Hawaii or somewhere beautiful with a beautiful ocean view. Put a soft blanket or something in there that's feels good to touch. Maybe even some music and a small bowl of something, one of your favorite treats, like a little piece, it might have some little pieces of chocolate or something in there. So that when you're really stressed out, you have all this anxiety and you can't seem to, now you're self-aware, you're understanding that you need to get away. You need a break for a minute. Go to your safe space and surround yourself with your beautiful different senses. So, and then finally, keep a journal, right? Writing in a journal is a great way to get in touch with your feelings and emotions about your current caregiving journey. You can document what is going well and what on your day didn't go so well. If you can, it can help you see self-improvement also. So you might be looking at it, and if you look at an old journal, you might see that you reacted really extreme to a similar situation. And then you look at today and you go, whoa, okay, I didn't break down in tears. It upset me, but I was able to handle it more in a more constructive manner. That's a great thing that a journal can do for you. It gives you that self-awareness. And using self-reflection helps you better identify not only how you are feeling, but why you are feeling that way, which I think is a big key. Using a journal as a safe place to express your feelings honestly and without fear of outside judgment can help you become more self-aware. Understanding how you are feeling and why you react a certain way to specific triggers is your first step toward changing that reaction. So I spoke a little bit about what I teach. And again, I use a very specific journaling technique called Journal to the Self, which is designed to bring the healing art and science. There's a lot of science behind therapeutic writing and journaling. And it's designed to bring those things to all who desire self-directed change. In my work with caregivers, I find these techniques beneficial in helping to identify and manage the many feelings and emotions that come with caring for a loved one. And again, I tend to include spouses, children, we're all caregivers to some degree. There's people in our lives that require attention and our time. And so these techniques can be used with everyone. The key is using the techniques to dig deeper and recognize that emotions and reactions can be and usually are caused by something other than the actual incident. Having this information can help you lessen guilt, quiet your self-critic, and provide an avenue of self-awareness, all of which help improve your care. I say caregiving experience, but truly, I think you could just say life experience, right?
Relational experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Your relationships are key in our lives, and the best way to have these wonderful relationships is to be self-aware and identify, personally self-aware. How do I come across to other people? It's kind of funny and unique for me here in Arizona, because I know that I have a very strong personality, and most of the people here are Midwestern, and they're very polite. Is the word I will
Very
use.
nice. I'm from Iowa.
Okay, there you go, right,
Nice.
Joan? And
Lori,
so
I always think of you as gentle.
you're so sweet, but polite to the point where, like, even like if you're trying to make a decision, it's like, well, what would you like to do? Well, what? And you go around the circle and everybody's, and I'm just like, okay, Monday at 7, let's just do it. I'm just like very straightforward.
Yeah.
But it's such a
Yeah.
personal self-awareness for me in this environment as to choosing my words and my tone and my facial expression in how I come across to people of a different culture. It's just very unique. So
Yeah, but I like that. That's what I want to be, more assertive, more expressive, less nice.
but
Although
would you
nice is
agree
good.
that it's
Nice is
definitely a
good.
Midwestern?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I like a person when they are assertive, and that's what I strive. I want to be that way. I want to think about myself and not always thinking about what others are thinking.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I like in people. They make decisions and they can tell you to an extent, their opinion.
Yeah. You don't want it forced on you, but yeah. So anyway, if you are interested in learning more about the technique that I teach, of course, there's my book, which is in the middle there, You're a Caregiver, Not a Saint. But then there's also, so this type of therapeutic writing is known worldwide. It was developed by Kathleen Adams, and her book, Journal to the Self, is a wonderful book that has all of the techniques in it and explains it. But she just this year came out with this really awesome card deck. And they have, I think it's 5 or 10 in each section, and there's a few, like 7 different sections that it's called like quick and easy, simple and structured, practical and productive, alpha poems, creative and connecting. So if there's something that you're looking to try to work on or whatever, these cards have like a technique and a prompt with them to help you get started. They're really quick and easy and pretty fun. And if you're interested, email me and I can send you the link on where to get them. So anyway, and that's it. So we've got 15 minutes, Erin. So let's talk for a minute and get everybody's final thoughts. And then Erin, I'd love it if you just let everybody know what you guys have going on. Final thoughts, ladies?
Well, I'm going to share a tiny little thing that from being an art gallery director and spending many, many years with artists and critiquing. You used the word critique earlier, and I'm going to share this. It's just simple, but
Great.
Criticism and critiquing are two different things. When someone criticizes you, it tends to come with a negative overtone. If you ask somebody for a critique, it's more informational and less judgmental. So and so when we would critique a piece of art, whether it was in a classroom situation or in a gallery situation, we weren't criticizing the art, we were analyzing it and giving feedback. So I always think that's an interesting thing to think about, that criticism versus critiquing are actually pretty different.
And where does critic fall into that?
That's a really good question.
Because I think the term I used was self-critic.
The attitude of the person who's doing the criticizing.
Gotcha.
And how you're receiving it. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, because in the form of as a caregiver,
right,
or as a human, even when we are self-criticizing or self-critiquing,
yeah,
right,
sure,
it doesn't tend to be informational, or when we have ourselves speaking to us, it's normally
critical.
Yes.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But there is a difference, and it's an interesting difference. So
yeah,
because
that
people
is
get really
interesting.
afraid of, like,
Thank you.
saying, oh, we're going to critique your art, and they're like, oh no, and it's like, no, we're not going to tear you apart, we're just going to give you feedback. So anyway, just there's this little
that's great. Thank you.
No, it's interesting, your cultural. I'm going to just a real quick thing on cultural. My husband is a very outgoing Texan from Beaumont, Texas. Beaumont, they always say Beaumont should be in Louisiana and Shreveport should be in Texas. But his family there's a lot of them, and they're very ebullient. And I'm an outgoing person. I'm certainly a strong personality. They are very loud and over the top. And he worked from home all last week. It used to be my office, it's his home office now. And he works in business development, and he's on the phone a lot. And after having Christmas and everything else that was going on, I absolutely blasted him, not in a nice way, and just said, you're so loud, and you put people on speaker, and you just shout at them, you shout at the phone, and I've been home with you all week and I'm going crazy. And now he shut himself down. And then I felt really guilty. I've crushed him. And I realized so much of what you said today was that I have not been feeling self-aware. And so I was being overwhelmed by him. And he's a wonderful, lovely, outgoing person. But it was just too much noise and too much information. And I got overwhelmed and I lashed out at him, when really it's what's going on.
Right. Had you been more self-aware about it, you would have maybe stepped away, gone and got coffee somewhere, or done something different to give yourself a break rather than.
Right. Yeah. So thank you, because this has been very, very helpful today. It always is, but boy, I was feeling a lot of guilt and shame about that.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Anyone else care to share last bits before we let Erin take us home? Okay. All right, Erin.
Cool. So yeah, I just put the link to our website in the chat. That's probably the easiest thing to share. And right on the homepage, there's a place to register for our upcoming webinar on February 1st. And then on that homepage, you can do all kinds of stuff like sign up for a newsletter. And then there is at the bottom of the page a link to some of our previously recorded webinars. So you can just learn more about us and what we have going on. And yeah, there's all kinds of stuff on our website to check out. So thanks for letting me share, Lori.
Yeah, they have great classes, do a lot of really wonderful work aside from sponsoring me month after month, which is definitely appreciated. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah, I'm like, I think, no. Great. All right, guys, thank you so much. We actually finished a little early. I had a stretching exercise on that I skipped over because I was a little worried about it. Would you rather log off, or does everybody want to do a little stretching?
I will.
When's the last time you took a minute and just reach for the sky? Just feel that. If you can step away from your, and stand, that's even better. Yeah, I love that one, Erin. Stretch your arms. Your other arm. Let's move your head to the right and down, over to the left, and back. Great. Again, hands overhead. Reach for the sky. If you're able, bend over and reach down as far as you can comfortably. Just kind of dangle there for a minute. Let everything loose. Let it just relax. Feel your hips stretching, your back. Come on up slowly. Let's roll our shoulders a little bit back. Oh, I love that one. And forward. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Oh, I did want to make one more announcement, and I will be sharing it on future. I'll do some emails and some future posts about it, but I belong to a group called the Whole Care Network, and it's a place that hosts a lot of podcasts and a lot of health related information, but most all directed towards caregivers. And they are starting a Whole Care Network University for caregivers. It's going to be a membership type thing, $1.99 a month. And you'll have access to all of the information. And I will be offering some workshops on there that you'll be able to purchase their recorded workshops and some PowerPoints and different things, and you'll be able to do that. But aside from my work, there are some experts from all around the country that will be teaching all kinds of really wonderful information on there. So I'll send out some info when it's all up and running. And it's just something I'm so excited about. It's a way for all of my work to just keep continuing to live, so it's kind of fun. So anyway, I'll let you know. And it's so reasonable at $1.99 a month. I think that to offer such great info and opportunities for everybody. So keep your eye out for that. Terrific. everybody have a wonderful month, and as always, email me if you have questions or want to do an additional writing or need a prompt or anything like that. And keep your eye on my Facebook page because I do list a lot of prompts on there. All right.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thank you
guys.
so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for
Bye.
coming.
Bye-bye.